How much money do you actually need to retire early? Well, most people either massively overestimate it or underestimate what they need to feel secure. We're often given the idea that we need millions in the bank to retire early. And certainly we look at the fact that we may have 30 years ahead of us. And so we assume that we need the same level of income that we have now in order to service those 30 plus years. Whereas in fact, the truth is something very different. Of course, for some lifestyles, that might be true. If you want to travel the world, if you want to live in a big house, then of course you need to be able to fund that in some way. However, for most of us, we want the financial flexibility and freedom to actually mean that we can live comfortably and still enjoy those small freedoms that we have become accustomed to, like a holiday abroad, for example, each year. But we don't want to be in a situation where we are having to watch every pound and every penny. And by living frugally, it makes us miserable. You hear a lot of stories in the news about people who are struggling with the current cost of living, and they're actually finding that living off their pensions is causing them some concern. So I do understand why it's important to have a look at what you actually need to have a comfortable retirement and not be poor in your old age. The question that you really then need to ask is, what kind of life do I want to have, and what am I going to need in order to sustain that life? Now, for me, things changed when I stopped thinking in terms of there being a big number that I needed to achieve, which was around £750,000 for myself and my husband to maintain the lifestyle that we currently have, if I looked at a calculation over the next 25 years. But instead of looking at that big number, I started thinking about the life that we wanted and the assets that we had that would afford us that lifestyle. And that really meant thinking strategically in terms of money in the savings accounts, the investments, the pension pot, but then thinking about, well, what do I not need that I have now that could also be used to bring about that comfortable retirement lifestyle that we had identified felt right for us. The other thing people don't really think about is they see retirement as an end game, that you will stop work. And for many, people don't actually stop work. So some kind of job can actually help to support your retirement alongside any pension pot that you've accumulated. And so for some people, they will have a part-time job. They may have a different kind of job that doesn't feel like a job, because that's the main thing, is you want to do something where you don't feel like you've just got off of one treadmill and onto another. For me, that was when I retrained in my 40s, and I was able then to look at doing coaching on a part-time basis in retirement. For others, it might be working in the local supermarket or doing deliveries on a part-time basis, something where there isn't really any pressure as such, and something that is very different to the work that you have done over 40 years that you have wanted to retire from. Instead of thinking, I need enough in the bank so that I never need to work again, it's more about thinking, I need enough so that I can give myself choices. So a simple way to think about this is, what are your essential monthly costs? What lifestyle do you want to have outside of just, meeting your monthly expenses? And what income potential do you have that can support your retirement? Because once you understand those numbers and those options, you're no longer guessing what you need. You're actually designing the life that you want and being very intentional about that. The biggest mistake people make is waiting until they hit that big number before they decide to change their life. When in reality, changing your life is often what makes that number possible. So if you're exploring the idea of creating more financial flexibility and freedom to enable you to retire early, or if you've moved into retirement and you are finding your way, please consider subscribing and join me on my journey into early retirement and how I'm splitting my time between a holiday home in Spain and a holiday lodge in Wales, and really thinking about how I redesign my life in middle age and the challenges, the reflections, and the choices that I'm making in this new phase of my life. I'm Angela. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon.